Hello and welcome to Encouraging Others in Loving Jesus. I'm your host, Kim Smith. This is episode 379, Refusing to Humble Oneself. So we have spent the last at least year of this podcast, if not longer, walking our way through the divided kingdom of Israel. We have seen the ups and the downs. We've seen multiple kings who did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, just as their ancestors had done, just as other kings had done. Like, we've seen it all. We've even seen ones that did good things, but they ended poorly. We have been all over the place. When it came to the northern kingdom, it was totally down, 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 down. Like, there was no bright spot whatsoever when it came to the leadership. The only bright spots were the prophets that reached out, that God had called to speak truth into the evil reign of multiple kings. Excuse me. And then we've been in the southern kingdom, and we've seen a whole lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of roller coaster there, including even in the lives of the individual kings, where they may reign for 36, 37 years and really do a great job, and then they turn around and the last part, they stink it up because they become so focused on themselves, excuse me, and so puffed up that they just can't get past themselves, and they end on a poor note. As you can tell, I am under the weather. I have some sort of upper respiratory something that's been bugging me for the last few days, and there's nothing I can do except for just press through. But it's one of the reasons where we're going to have a very short podcast today, because the longer I talk, the more the air gets on my lungs or gets on my windpipe, the more I'm going to cough. So, and I did not in any way, shape, or form want to end this how many podcasts have we done on the divided kingdom? I did not want us to go over the fall of Jerusalem and it be with me compromised. So what we're going to do is this week we are just focusing on the very last king of the divided kingdom. And for me, it's always so easy to remember, because after his name was changed, his name begins with a Z. So I like simple, and that works for me, and that is Zedekiah. So Zedekiah is not only recognized in 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles, but he also is talked about in the book of Jeremiah. So last week we talked about the prophet Jeremiah, who, after I've taught for the last year or so out of the book of Jeremiah, I'm even more fond of him than I was when I started. And I still have a few more lessons to go on that side of the coin. And I've already gotten a sneak peek because of doing this podcast. I've seen where my Sunday school lessons are getting ready to go. It's going to be quite the wild ride. And today we're going to see that Zedekiah, it's kind of hard to figure out the exact word to use. He gives audience to Jeremiah. Excuse me. I can't say listens to, because that's not correct. He gives audience to Jeremiah. He even continues to invite Jeremiah to talk, but he ignores everything he says. Is what it comes down to. One of the possible names of today's podcast was the king that refused to listen. And it would have been totally appropriate. But he also refused to humble himself. Because the main reason he refused to listen was because he did not want to know what God was saying through the prophet Jeremiah, because he did not want to change. And even though I hate to see anybody make the poor choices that Zedekiah made, it kind of seems fitting that after God has sent multiple prophets, but especially Jeremiah, to speak to king after king after king after king, telling them God is going to punish Judah, that we end with another king that just doesn't believe it. It's not really going to happen. And he just keeps going as if he can defy. I was just listening to a Christian novel earlier today. I'm listening to another one right now, right before I turn on the podcast. And in that particular novel, you have this drug dealer, drug trafficker, and he, excuse me, just believes he's invincible. And even though he's a fictional character, I mean, he's in raging waters and he's still barking orders as if everybody has to listen to him. He does not believe that there's any way that anything is going to take him out. And that fictional character reminds me of Zedekiah. So we're going to read just a little bit from 2 Chronicles 36, and we're going to read just a little bit from Jeremiah 37, and then we're going to put my throat to rest so that I'm able to teach Sunday school in the morning and be able to recuperate so that I can get back on this podcast next week and we can really look at maybe the stages of the fall of Jerusalem, because it didn't come overnight. It was a progression. And I think that would help not only you, but help me. Because I need to understand that better, because there's a lot of material on the fall of Jerusalem. And I do not want, since we've spent so much time building up to it, I do not want to just slide past it. I really want to learn from it, because none of us want to have that type of fall in our personal lives. We don't want to see that type of fall in the country in which we live. We don't want to see anybody that we care about punished. But we've got to realize that if we continue to do exactly what God is saying, do not do, or we continue not to do what he tells us to do, there will be consequences. So here we go. So let's do 2 Chronicles 36, 11 through 16. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. But Zedekiah did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, his God. And he refused to humble himself when the prophet Jeremiah spoke to him directly from the Lord. I'm coming back to it, but take in that phrase. Just take it in. He refused to humble himself when the prophet Jeremiah spoke to him directly from the Lord. Verse 13. He also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, even though he had taken an oath of loyalty in God's name. Zedekiah was a hard and stubborn man, refusing to turn to the Lord, the God of Israel. Likewise, all the leaders of the priests and the people became more and more unfaithful. They followed all the pagan practices of the surrounding nations, desecrating the temple of the Lord that had been consecrated in Jerusalem. The Lord, the God of their ancestors, repeatedly sent his prophets to warn them, for he had compassion on his people and his temple. But the people mocked these messengers of God, despised their words. They scoffed at the prophets until the Lord's anger could no longer be restrained. Nothing could be done. And then we go to Jeremiah 37. Jeremiah 37. Zedekiah, son of Josiah. Look, he came from good stock. Josiah was a good king. He didn't die in the best of ways because he refused to believe that God could speak through Necho from Egypt. He just thought that he had a corner on the market of God speaking. But sadly, each of the seeds that we have encountered from Josiah, they're not from the same stock as Josiah. So Zedekiah, son of Josiah, succeeded Jehoiachin, son of Jehoiakim, as the king of Judah. He was appointed by King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. That in itself gives you an idea of just how far gone they are, that instead of being appointed by God, the last leader of the divided kingdom, the southern kingdom of Judah, was appointed by the Babylonian king. It's not a good thing. But neither King Zedekiah nor his attendants nor the people who were left in the land listened to what the Lord said through Jeremiah. Nevertheless, King Zedekiah sent Jehukal, son of Shelemiah, and Zephaniah the priest, son of Messiah, to ask Jeremiah, please pray to the Lord our God for us. Jeremiah has not yet been in prison, so he could come and go among the people as he pleased. And then let's skip down to verse 17. Jeremiah was doing his job, doing what he needed to do, but everything was just going crazy. And he was just about to be arrested. He got thrown into a dungeon cell, and Zedekiah calls for him. It says, later King Zedekiah secretly requested that Jeremiah come to the palace, where the king asked him, do you have any messages from the Lord? Yes, I do, said Jeremiah. You will be defeated by the king of Babylon. So, as you have had to suffer through my lack of a voice and my coughing, I apologize for that. But that was the only way this could get recorded today, so we just pressed through. But what do you see in this? Well, you see Zedekiah, who he just refuses. He wants to hear what the Lord is saying only if it's what agrees with what he wants. Like, he keeps asking for Jeremiah. Even when Jeremiah was in the dungeon, he's about to move him. He doesn't leave him in the dungeon cell, but he calls for him. I don't think there's any doubt, hoping that, like, God's changed his mind. Like, if I keep asking enough, like the little kid who their mom or dad said they couldn't have ice cream, but they keep asking and asking and asking, and eventually they just give up and say, oh yeah, just have it. That's what Zedekiah reminds me of, because he has been spoken to through the prophet Jeremiah, but it was God's direct word. It was God speaking directly through Jeremiah. And what was Zedekiah's response? Was his response like the prophet Isaiah? I am a man of unclean lips, and I live amongst a people of unclean lips, to humble himself and pray and seek God's face and turn from his wicked ways? No, he refused to humble himself. He was a hard and stubborn man. And this is how the southern kingdom of Judah, the line of David, this is how they are marched into captivity, with the Z king supposedly reigning, not like he had any power, to be real honest with you, but supposedly reigning. This is the last voice. He reigned for 11 years, and there's another story about him that maybe, if my voice is back next week, I will add it into the rest of we're going to do like a little mini series on the fall of Jerusalem. But today I just want you to focus on the fact that this man was put in a place of authority, and God is choosing to speak directly to him, giving them one more chance. That didn't mean they weren't going into captivity, but there were so many things that could have gone so much better. But instead, he refused to humble himself. He keeps asking for the prophet to speak, just thinking that eventually God's voice is going to sound different, and all the bad that they're doing is going to be deemed good. And they're going to miss out on the consequences. Don't live a life like Zedekiah, only listening to God, hoping that he will bless your sinful life. Seek the Lord with your whole heart. Surrender all to him. Don't be like Zedekiah. And the only thing that's remembered about you is that you did not humble yourself before the Lord. You refused to listen to his prophet that God was speaking directly to, and that you are hard and stubborn. Like, what a legacy. What a legacy to leave. It may be poetic justice for the people of Judah to have had a leader such as he was, as they were seeing the last bricks metaphorically fall on Jerusalem. But our lives do not have to end that same way. no matter where you are in your life journey. When you may not know where you are in your life journey. Like, you may think, I'm 34 years old and I've got an entire life ahead of me, and you meet Jesus tomorrow. Or you may be 79 and you think, I am at the last part of my life and I don't have much more to go and I'm just going to coast in. And God gives you another 21 years. None of us are guaranteed today. Forget about tomorrow. But may we use our voices. May we use our hands. May we use our feet. May we use our shoulders. May we use our heart. May we use our mind. May we use everything that we have to be all God created us to be, so that when people look back on the history of the world, if they were to see our little segment, just as we have gotten a glimpse of Zedekiah's, they will not see that we refuse to humble ourselves, refuse to listen to God, we're hard and stubborn, but instead that we lived a life worthy of the Lord, pleasing Him in every way, bearing fruit in every good work, growing in the knowledge of Him, being strengthened with all power according to His glorious might, so that we might have great endurance and patience, and joyfully give thanks to Him, for we share in the inheritance of the saints in the kingdom of light. May it be that when our life is looked upon, we did what was pleasing in the sight of the Lord, and we lived a life worthy of our calling. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for having patience with my lack of a voice and my coughing, because even though my voice is compromised today, I think God just spoke. And guess what? We need to listen. We need to humble ourselves and pray and seek His face and turn from our wicked ways. I'm looking forward to walking through the fall of Jerusalem over these next few weeks, and let's see what we can learn from the choices that were made, so that we do not have to see the same type of destruction, not only in our own personal lives, but in the history of the nation in which we live. And just remember, it's always a trust and obey kind of day.